For as long as I could remember, my name, Lucas Harris, had been synonymous with the reliable one. Not because I was particularly talented or ambitious, though I did work hard, but because I was the family ATM. Invisible yet indispensable. My sister Leia? She was the golden child, the one who shone so brightly that everyone else seemed to fade into the background. And me? I existed solely to make her look better by comparison. It wasn't just financial support, it was emotional labor too. Every favor added up quietly, slowly, until one day I realized I wasn't just funding my own life, I was funding two households. Mine and theirs. It started small, almost imperceptibly. Picking up groceries when money was tight. Co-signing a loan for Leia's business venture, which turned out to be a designer handbag collection she never paid off. Covering Dad's new tires because, well, he had bills to pay. Each time they assured me it would be temporary. Each time I swallowed the resentment and told myself this was what families did. But deep down I knew better. This wasn't love, it was exploitation. And yet I stayed silent, hoping they'd see how much I sacrificed and finally show some gratitude. Spoiler alert, they didn't. Then came Mom's birthday dinner, an event so extravagant it made royal weddings look modest. When Leia called to discuss details, I expected the usual guilt trip about needing help covering costs. What I didn't expect was her tone. Cold. Calculating. As if she were speaking to an inconvenience rather than her own brother. Maybe it's better if you skip Mom's birthday this year, she said, not even blinking. Her voice dripped with condescension, like she was delivering bad news to someone beneath her. You're too poor. I laughed. Actually laughed. Because at first I thought it was a joke. A cruel, twisted joke, but still a joke. Come again? I asked, setting down my coffee mug. You know what I mean, she replied, flipping her hair like we were in a shampoo commercial. It's a high-end place. Classy. No offense, but showing up in your thrift store blazer might kill the vibe. No offense at all, I said dryly, my voice laced with sarcasm. She leaned back on Mom's couch, stretching her legs like she owned the house, which to be fair she kind of did. Everything always belonged to her. Attention, gifts, money, praise. I just existed to prop her up. Honestly, she continued, it's just easier if you don't come. No hard feelings. You can just send something. I'm sending something, I said slowly. $6,000 actually. To cover half the dinner. Her face twitched for half a second. The tiny panic people get when they realize they've stepped into quicksand. Then she forced a smile. Cool, she said breezily, clearly trying to regain control. No problem. But there was a problem. A big one. Because later that evening, as I reviewed my bank statements, something caught my eye. That $6,000 transfer hadn't gone through immediately, it was scheduled for the next morning. And suddenly everything clicked. The pieces fell into place. I pulled out my phone, tapped cancel transfer, and watched as the transaction disappeared. Leia didn't notice. She wouldn't, not until it was too late. That night, as I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Anger, yes, but also clarity. For years, I'd let them walk all over me, convincing myself it was noble to sacrifice for family. But now I saw things differently. They didn't see me as family, they saw me as a resource. A wallet with legs. And it was time they learned exactly who I was. The next morning, I put on my best shirt, not that they'd notice, and headed to the restaurant an hour before the classy birthday dinner. Not as a guest. Not this time. As I walked through the doors, I glanced up at the glowing sign above the entrance. Harris Modern Bistro. My last name. My lights. When they arrived at 7:10 sharp, dressed to impress, they froze. Their eyes darted from the sign to me, standing behind the polished host stand. Leia's laugh cracked in her throat. What are you doing here? I smiled, a cold, calculated smile. Working, I said simply. Well, owning, technically. Their expressions twisted in disbelief. Mom squinted. Wait, this is yours? I didn't buy it, I corrected. I built it. And just like that, the tables turned. Literally. The clock struck 7:10 p.m., and they arrived like royalty descending from their ivory tower. My sister, Leia, led the procession in her designer heels, her hair perfectly styled as if she were auditioning for a photo shoot. Mom followed close behind, draped in pearls that gleamed under the restaurant's soft lighting, while Dad trailed awkwardly in his camera-ready suit, the one he reserved for weddings and funerals. They strutted through the glass doors with an air of entitlement, oblivious to the fact that this wasn't just any venue, it was my domain. For a brief moment, I let them bask in their delusion. Their eyes scanned the elegant decor, lingering on the glowing sign above the entrance. Harris Modern Bistro. My last name. My empire. And yet, they didn't connect the dots, not until they saw me standing there, leaning casually against the polished host stand. Leia froze mid-step, her jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. What are you doing here? She snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. I smiled, a cold, calculated smile that made her flinch. Working, I said simply. Well, owning, technically. Her laugh cracked halfway through like a record skipping. You own this place? I didn't buy it, I corrected, gesturing toward the sign. I built it. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the clinking of glasses and hum of conversation around us seemed to fade into the background. Their expressions twisted, shock, disbelief, then something darker. Humiliation. It was written all over their faces. Mom squinted at me, her lips parting but no words coming out. Dad adjusted his tie nervously, clearly unsure how to navigate this unexpected twist. And Leia? She recovered quickly, or at least tried to. Her mask of confidence slipped back into place as she tossed her hair over her shoulder. This is ridiculous, she muttered, turning to Mom. Can we just sit down already? Actually, I interrupted, my tone icy, that won't be necessary. Their heads whipped toward me. What do you mean? Mom demanded, her voice rising slightly. I mean, I paused for dramatic effect, savoring every second. There is no table. Not anymore. Leia's face turned crimson. You're joking. Dead serious, I replied, meeting her gaze without blinking. She stormed up to me, her heels clicking like gunshots against the marble floor. You can't just. I can, I cut her off, my voice calm but firm. And I did. You told me not to come, remember? I'm just following your advice. The room fell silent again, every patron within earshot now watching the spectacle unfold. Leia opened her mouth to argue further, but I stepped aside and gestured toward the exit. Classy enough for you now? If looks could kill, I'd have been 6 feet under right then. But I didn't care. For the first time in years, I felt powerful. Watching them squirm, watching their carefully constructed facade crumble, was intoxicating. They left in a huff, slamming the door behind them, but I stayed rooted to the spot, letting the weight of what had just happened sink in. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind raced with adrenaline, replaying the scene over and over again. I should have felt guilty, or at least conflicted, but instead I felt alive. Like I'd finally taken control of my own life. But the victory was short-lived. At 9:07 a.m. the next morning, my phone buzzed incessantly. A text from Mom, what was that? Followed by Dad at 9:12 a.m. You embarrassed your sister in front of everyone. She was crying all night. And finally, Leia herself at 10:02 a.m. You're unbelievable. We're done. But the cherry on top came from Mom just 2 minutes later. You need to apologize. You ruined her birthday. I stared at the screen for a full minute, then set the phone face down. No one asked why I'd done it. No one cared about the years of resentment, the countless favors I'd granted only to be treated like a disposable ATM. All they cared about was their golden girl being humiliated, and that was unacceptable. By Monday I was uninvited from the family group chat, a subtle but clear message. Tuesday brought a voicemail from Mom. It's sad that you let jealousy get in the way of family. Your sister's doing well, and instead of being happy for her, you act out like a child. You're better than this, at least I thought you were. Jealousy. They actually believed that's what this was about. I wasn't angry anymore. I was tired. Exhausted, honestly. Because this pattern wasn't new, it had been going on for years. Every favor added up quietly, slowly, until one day I realized I was funding 2 households. Mine and theirs. When I brought it up, Dad laughed. You're single, you don't have kids. What else are you spending money on? Then came the gut punch. A call from my bank. Mr. Harris, we need to verify a recent change of address on your premium card ending in 8832. I don't have a premium card, I replied, my stomach sinking. There was a pause, followed by the sound of papers shuffling. It was opened under your name 3 weeks ago. Address listed as 41 Briar Lane, that's your parents' house. I drove over immediately. I didn't knock, I just walked in. They were in the kitchen, calm as ever. Hey honey, Mom said, not even looking up. We weren't expecting you. I noticed, I said dryly. You opened a credit card under my name. The silence that followed was deafening. What are you talking about? Dad asked, feigning confusion. I pulled out the letter and dropped it on the table. Mom's face twitched for half a second, then she sighed. It's not what you think. Really? I raised an eyebrow. Because I think it's fraud. Dad scoffed. Don't be dramatic. It's not like we were using it for fun. Who's we? I shot back. No one answered. I turned to Leia, who was suddenly very interested in her nails. You, I accused. She shrugged. I needed to book the venue. I didn't think it would be a big deal. Didn't think? Are you insane? I snapped. It's theft. It's temporary, she shot back. You've got money. Stop acting like a victim. Victim? I repeated, incredulous. You steal my name, run up debt, shut me out of the dinner I paid for, and I'm the problem? Mom stepped in, her voice cool and composed. Lower your voice. What? Afraid the neighbors will hear what perfect little Leia did. She was under pressure, Mom interjected sharply. Honestly, you were kind of cold the other night. I stared at them, these people who called themselves my family, acting like I should apologize for being robbed. That's when it hit me, they didn't see me as family. They saw me as a wallet with legs. I left without another word. That night I checked my credit report. Not one new account. Not two. Three. One of them had a balance of nearly $8,000, charged at wedding boutiques, restaurants, and a luxury spa experience 2 towns over. Every charge was dated before the birthday dinner. They had the audacity to call me poor while using my name to live rich. Something inside me snapped, not in rage but in clarity. They wanted a war. They had no idea what I had planned. Sunday brunch at Grandma's house was always a spectacle. The long oak table groaned under the weight of casseroles, pies, and pitchers of fresh lemonade. Cousins, uncles, aunts, even family friends who were practically relatives, gathered like clockwork. It was tradition, sacrosanct and unmissable. But this Sunday? This brunch would be different. I arrived 15 minutes early, sat quietly at the far end of the table, and watched as everyone trickled in. They greeted me like nothing had happened, like I hadn't just humiliated them publicly days before. Fake hugs, tight smiles, hollow words. One cousin even patted me on the back and said, "You doing okay, man?" "I'm great," I replied, my tone dripping with sarcasm. "Really great." No one noticed, or at least pretended not to. My sister walked in 20 minutes late, of course, wearing a designer dress, oversized sunglasses, and hair styled like she was headed to Cannes. She didn't look at me, instead she made a show of hugging everyone else, her movements deliberate and theatrical. Mom followed her, gripping a tray of baked ziti like it was a peace offering. Dad shuffled behind, avoiding my eyes altogether. "Okay." Grandma clapped her hands. "Let's eat." I let them settle in. Let them fill their plates, laugh, make small talk, pretend like nothing was wrong. I let them get comfortable. And then, when the moment felt right, I stood up. "I have something to say." Every fork froze midair. All eyes turned to me. Slowly, deliberately, I reached into my bag and pulled out a small stack of folders, neat, labeled, damning. "Here are the 3 credit card accounts opened in my name in the last 2 months, I said, placing the first folder on the table. Total balance across them, $13,412. Mom's face drained of color. My sister stopped chewing. "Oh, and here's the kicker," I continued, sliding another document toward her. All 3 were opened using my social security number, but with my parents' home address. Interesting, right? A few people shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. Murmurs rippled through the room. "If anyone's curious," I added, pulling out printed statements, "here's a breakdown of the charges. Venue bookings, spa days, designer clothing, luxuries." I slid a paper directly in front of Leia. "Lumari Bridal and Events. That's your name right there on the booking." She swallowed hard. "You're twisting this," she hissed, but her voice lacked conviction. I turned to the rest of the table. "Go ahead. Tell me how I'm twisting fraud." Mom stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Okay, that's enough. You're humiliating us." "Oh, we're just getting started," I shot back, reaching into my bag one last time. I placed a final folder marked Affidavit, Identity Theft Complaint in the center of the table. "This," I said, tapping the folder, "is the legal report I filed last week. I gave you a chance to explain. You gave me silence." My father finally spoke, his voice tight. "You would report your own family to the police?" I looked at him, calm but unyielding. "You used my name. You took my credit. You banned me from Mom's birthday and called me poor. At what point was I still part of this family?" Leia shot to her feet, her composure cracking. "You're being unfair. You're making a scene." I tilted my head, letting a cold smile play on my lips. "Funny, that's exactly what you said when you told me not to come to Mom's dinner. Except now," I gestured around the room. "I own the room." She lunged for the folder, trying to crumple it, but I snatched it back. "Try again," I warned, holding her gaze, "and I'll make copies for everyone here. Better yet, I'll post it online." She stood there, shaking, furious, cornered. I turned to Grandma, whose expression was unreadable. "You've always been the only one who treated me like a person," I said softly. "But the rest? They saw me as an ATM." Grandma looked like she might cry. And then came the twist, not from me but from the back of the room. Someone cleared their throat. "Kevin," Leia whispered, her voice barely audible. Kevin, her ex-boyfriend, stepped forward. "Actually," he said, raising his voice, "I'd like to add something." Leia's head whipped toward him. "Kevin, no, you want to talk about fraud?" Kevin cut her off. "Ask her where the down payment for our condo went." Silence. "She told me her job covered it," Kevin continued, glaring at her. "Turns out she used my card, and yours," he pointed at me, "to rack up over $3,000 in luxury salon treatments and electronics. When I confronted her, she cried, blamed me for making her feel insecure, then ghosted. She promised she'd pay me back. She never did." He held up his phone and pressed play on a voicemail. Her voice filled the room. "Kevin, don't be mad, but I might have moved some stuff around. It's not a big deal. I just needed a little help for the family dinner. He'll never notice." Leia went white as a sheet. Kevin looked at me. "Sorry I didn't say something sooner." I thought she was just stressed. Turns out she's just a liar. With that, he walked out. So did 2 cousins. Then my aunt. Even Uncle Mitch, the man who once called me soft for buying birthday gifts instead of booze, looked shaken. Leia slumped into her chair, stunned. Mom sat frozen. Dad muttered something under his breath, but it landed like a whisper against a wall. I grabbed my bag. I'm done, I said. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't ask me for one more thing. Then I walked out. And this time no one stopped me. 3 days of silence followed. No fake apologies. No fake love. No fake family. It was the quietest my phone had ever been. On the 4th day the phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. I almost declined, but something made me answer. Hello. Pause. Then a man's voice, cautious and tired. Is this Lucas Harris? Yes. Who's this? My name's Andrew Talbot. You don't know me, but I think we have something in common. Andrew sounded like someone who'd been dragged through hell and barely made it out. Did your sister ever live in Denver? I sat up straight. Yeah, about 4 years ago. Why? We need to talk. We spoke for 2 hours. Andrew had dated Leia briefly months before her big fresh start back home. They'd split up after she borrowed his credit card and racked up over $3,000 in luxury salon treatments and electronics. When he confronted her, she cried, blamed him for making her feel insecure, then ghosted. He never pressed charges because she promised she'd pay him back. She never did. Instead, she changed cities and names. Turns out, she'd briefly started going by Leia Preston, her middle name and Mom's maiden name. A new persona. A cleaner slate. And I wasn't the first one she dragged into financial messes under that alias. Andrew found me after a friend sent him a screenshot of my story. It had gone viral in one corner of Reddit. He recognized her instantly. I thought I was the fool, Andrew told me. Turns out I was just first, I said. And now I'm last because I'm not going to let her do it again. The next morning I called my lawyer. I've got a witness, I said. In a pattern. He whistled. This changes everything. Then I called Andrew back. Thank you, I said sincerely. He paused, then said something I'll never forget. Neither did you. But you did what I was too scared to. You stopped her. It's funny how silence can feel louder than noise. For the first time in years, my phone didn't buzz with demands or guilt trips. No late-night texts asking for bail money. No calls from Mom saying I was too sensitive when I pointed out they were using me. Just quiet. And it wasn't just the absence of their voices. It was the absence of obligation. The weight of invisible chains finally lifted. I moved into a small apartment downtown, one that smelled faintly of fresh paint and possibility. It wasn't fancy, just a studio with creaky floors and mismatched furniture. But it was mine. Every piece of furniture, every dish, every inch of air belonged to me. There was no living room where someone could yell at me while expecting me to pitch in for groceries after insulting me. No one telling me what I owed them simply for existing. The first night, I sat on the floor eating takeout straight from the container, staring at the empty walls. It felt strange, not bad but strange, to have so much space without anyone else filling it. 4 years, I'd been surrounded by people who took more than they gave, who saw me as a resource rather than a person. Now I was alone. But for the first time, being alone didn't feel lonely. It felt peaceful. Work became my anchor. I landed a job through an old coworker, a real position based on merit, not pity or favoritism. My new colleagues weren't perfect, no group is. But they respected boundaries. They laughed with me, not at me. When we went out for drinks after work, no one hinted that I should cover the tab because I owed them. For once, I was just another guy at the table, not the guy everyone expected to foot the bill. One Friday evening, our team ordered pizza and stayed late brainstorming ideas for a big project. Someone cracked a joke about corporate jargon, and the whole room erupted in laughter. I laughed too, harder than I had in months. It struck me then, this was freedom. Not the dramatic kind you see in movies, but the quiet, steady kind. The kind where you wake up each morning knowing nobody is going to call you a failure behind your back while stealing your paycheck. Still, my family tried. Oh, how they tried. The first attempt came via email, a carefully worded message from Mom. We miss you, it began, dripping with faux sincerity. This has gone far enough. You've proven your point. Come home. Home. As if I ever truly belonged there. I deleted the email without responding. Then came the voicemails. Dad's gruff voice accusing me of being selfish. Leia's shaky plea claiming she'd learned her lesson, and begging me to forgive her. Each message ended the same way, your family. Family forgives. But forgiveness isn't a free pass. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, or excusing, the harm done. Finally they showed up at my door. Literally. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to open it anyway. Standing there in her usual designer coat, hair perfectly curled like a mask to hide the cracks underneath, was Mom. Behind her, arms crossed as always, was Dad. My stomach didn't twist. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. I just looked at them and waited. We just want to talk, Mom said, flashing that fake polished smile she used at church or in front of neighbors. No, I replied simply. You owe us at least a conversation, Dad interjected, his tone sharp. I laughed, a cold, bitter laugh. I owe you? You stole my name, my credit, my dignity. And now you want to lecture me about selfishness. Mom stepped forward, her voice trembling slightly. Lucas, please. We made mistakes. But you humiliated the family. And you had no problem humiliating me for years, I shot back. Telling people I was a failure while spending my money behind my back. Using me like I was nothing more than a safety net. Dad opened his mouth to argue, but I cut him off. I'm not the same person anymore. I'm not the quiet, guilty overgiver you raised me to be. I'm the man who knows how to fight back. If you come for me again, I'll burn the whole illusion you've built, and this time I'll make it public. Their faces fell. Without another word, I stepped back inside and shut the door. That night, I pulled an old box from my closet. Inside were photos, letters, birthday cards, little scraps of guilt collected over the years. I carried the box to the balcony, dumped its contents into a steel bowl and lit a match. One by one, their faces curled in flame and turned to ash. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just watched them burn. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter. The past didn't haunt me anymore. It was gone, reduced to ashes in the wind. I poured myself a cup of coffee, leaned against the counter and stared out the window. For the first time in years, I felt whole. It's strange how silence can feel like the loudest sound in the world. 4 weeks, my phone had been quiet. No desperate calls from Mom, no guilt-laden emails from Dad, no attempts by Leia to justify herself. Just silence. And yet, that silence was louder than any of their voices ever were. It was the sound of freedom but also finality. One morning, I found an envelope slipped under my door. No stamp, no return address, just a plain white envelope with my name scrawled hastily across the front. I stared at it for a moment, bracing myself for bile or manipulation. But when I opened it, I found something unexpected. A check. $13,412, the exact amount they'd stolen through those fraudulent credit cards. A sticky note was attached, written in shaky handwriting. She finally confessed. We had no choice. I held the check in my hands, staring at it as if it might bite. It wasn't just paper, it was their last-ditch effort to buy me off, to sweep everything under the rug without truly acknowledging what they'd done. There was no apology, no warmth, no acknowledgement of the years of exploitation. Just damage control. I folded the check once, then slid it into the shredder. Watching it tear apart piece by piece felt symbolic, not just of their attempt to mend things but of my complete detachment from them. Money couldn't fix what they'd broken. They couldn't buy their way back into my life, not this time. That evening, I sat on the floor of my apartment, cross-legged, staring at nothing in particular. My mind wandered back over the past few months, the chaos, the revelations, the confrontations. I thought about the family brunch, the look on Leia's face when Kevin stepped forward, the way my grandparents exchanged glances when I laid out the evidence. I thought about the night I burned those old photos and letters, watching my past turn to ash. But most of all, I thought about the weight that had lifted from my shoulders. For so long, I'd carried the burden of being the responsible one, the invisible safety net that everyone else could lean on while pretending I didn't exist. Now I was free of it. Free of them. I leaned back against the wall and exhaled, a deep, cleansing breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding in. Freedom wasn't loud or dramatic, it was quiet, steady, and still. It was sitting here in this tiny apartment, knowing that no one would call me tonight asking for money or favors. Knowing that I didn't owe anyone anything, not anymore. Later that night, I stepped out onto the balcony. The city lights stretched out before me, endless and electric. Above them, the sky was dark, dotted with stars that seemed impossibly far away. I leaned on the railing, letting the cool breeze wash over me. For years, I'd lived in the shadow of my family's toxicity. I'd let them define me, shape me, drain me until I barely recognized myself. But now I was standing in the light, or maybe creating my own. I thought about the people who had reached out after hearing my story. Strangers who saw themselves in my struggles, who thanked me for speaking up when they couldn't. Andrew Talbot, whose voice had cracked with relief when he realized he wasn't alone. Even Kevin, whose courage in stepping forward had helped dismantle the illusion my sister had built. Their words echoed in my mind, reminding me that I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was fighting for everyone who had ever been taken advantage of, dismissed, or silenced. And I had won. Not because I destroyed them but because I freed myself. The next day I went to work like usual. My coworkers greeted me with smiles and jokes, none of them knowing the battles I'd fought or the scars I carried. And honestly, I preferred it that way. For the first time, I wasn't defined by my past. I was just another person in the room, living my life on my terms. At lunch, I joined a group of colleagues at a nearby cafe. We laughed, shared stories, and split the bill evenly, no resentment, no hidden agendas. When we left, I lingered outside for a moment, looking up at the clear blue sky. Freedom wasn't just about cutting ties with my family. It was about learning to set boundaries, to value myself enough to say no. It was about realizing that I deserved better, not just from others but from myself. That night I stood on my balcony again staring up at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the city lights, was a universe vast and unknowable. And yet, for the first time I felt like I belonged somewhere, in my own skin, in my own life. Lucas Harris. Not the reliable one, not the invisible one. Just Lucas. As I turned to go back inside, I whispered softly to myself, more as a reminder than anything else, I am enough. And for the first time I believed it.